did you want to become a physician?
It's about the structure and function and the beauty of life.
To help my mom.
To talk with the patient, to understand them.
My job is really to make sure that my colleague here is starving. So that my patient will not get to have cancers.
Right. Hello and welcome to Crossover. I'm Yi Shu in Beijing with my wonderful co-host Tianran.
You can't get rid of me.
You just keep coming back
but it's
and
really
back.
hard to get rid of me.
So Tianran, I knew you grew up in I know that you grew up in the UK. Tell me, when you were growing up, did your parents want you to be a certain occupation?
Like a good Asian? So, I mean, you only really have three choices, don't you? You can either be an engineer or a lawyer or a doctor.
Right. For those of
chose-
us who are overseas Chinese, which one did you choose?
I chose the easy route. I chose engineering because...
Is there an easy route?
Yeah. Engineering, you really only need to just read and then, sit in front of your computer. But for lawyers and even more so for doctors, it's way harder. You actually have to, be humanitarian, I guess. What about you?
Which you are not,
No.
apparently. I thought up until, after I actually applied to medical school that I was going to become a doctor.
Wow.
Did all the medical prereqs. But long story short, I realized that being a doctor is not as necessarily romantic and idealistic or as easy. I never thought it was easy, but I thought that it would be romantic and easy. But then, business environment changes a lot, whichever country you're in when it comes to healthcare.
Sure.
And so the reality hit me, and I decided to be involved in healthcare, but not as a doctor. So today we're going to talk about what it takes to be a doctor across many different countries. Today we have two very established and successful doctors, physicians here. Dr. Ru Changgizi from Beijing United Family Hospital. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
And Dr. Zhang Ji from
Yes.
Beijing University Cancer Hospital.
Yes.
You're a surgeon.
Yeah, I'm a surgeon.
A surgeon. All right, both of you, welcome to Crossover. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so, I talked about how I wanted to be a doctor, but I didn't quite get there. Tell me, for both of you, why did you want to become a physician?
I don't want to be a doctor when I was in high school. I just want to be an architect.
An architect?
Yeah, I love that. It's just so fascinating. It's a combination between techniques and culture and everything. But my father wanted me to be a doctor. Just before the final examination, one of my aunt died from gastric cancer. So before that, my mother supported me, but she changed her mind, just like maybe a doctor is a very good choice. So I think, yeah, I can help my family, protect them, and maybe protect more people.
There's, I guess, some similarity between being an architect and a surgeon. If you're an architect, you're building buildings, you're, looking at the technical side of buildings, and surgeons, you're looking at the technical side of someone's body too.
Yes.
Right.
There's some similarities. It's about the structure and function and the beauty of life.
Right.
True, very true.
And for you, doctor, when did you decide that you wanted to be a doctor?
Well, growing up, my mother was sick quite often. And I saw her more in the hospital than actually at home, between the ages of probably 5 to 8. And then at that time, I decided I wanted to do something so that I would be able to help my mom. And of course, when I had other choices as growing up, but again, there was always this nagging thing about medicine, that I should be doing medicine.
Right.
And I'm so glad that you talked about this architecture in medicine, because medicine is not only science, it's art and science together. It is the ability, there's a lot of human relationship, there is a lot of arts involved in communicating with the patient. There's a lot of investigation. You have to be a good detective, and also you have to be a good psychologist. So all of that together, I would say that, being a doctor, I've been really privileged to be able to finish this career, finish my studies, and to have a very fruitful career, being able to practice in many continents, and really knowing that the need of human beings, no matter where they are, is the same.
Right.
That they want to have health, family is important for them, they want to enjoy life, And anybody that you pinch them with a needle, they poke them with a needle, it's also hurtful.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Being
having
able to empathize, that sort of
absolutely,
empathy,
that
right?
empathy is so important. Yeah.
Right. We talked to some current medical students who are actually studying medicine at a local Beijing university. Let's take a look and hear what they had to say.
I started my college life with biology, but I changed my mind when I found I'm more interested in medicine. That was because the knowledge and research we do in biology nowadays are quite basic and focused on a microscopic level. It's a little far from directly helping people relieve their pain and disease. Besides that, I'm a social person. I like being with people instead of staying in the labs.
It's well acknowledged that studying medicine is quite hard, but my interest in this has been leading me through. I enjoy the process, and that's why I can always make it after the hard moments. The difficult part of being a doctor, it's too early for me to draw any conclusion now, as I'm still a medical student. I guess it might be the part of how you communicate with your patients and the part of how you create an accurate diagnosis.
My mother is a doctor. At first, I didn't quite understand why she left home for further education. But years later, I gradually get the point. A doctor needs to learn for her entire life. And it led me to my own choice of medicine. I want to be a doctor too.
Being a medical student, what was that path like?
Before being accepted in medicine is really such a glorious thing that you've been accepted to this special club. And then once you start your training as a medical student, you're at the bottom of the totem pole. That you've got layers and layers of hierarchy above you.
Right.
That every order, everything that needs to be done, who does it is always the first year medical student.
Right.
And in fact, it's a fantastic thing because it allows you to be so human. You understand about the suffering of people. You remember about changing the bedpans. You know about the catheters, about starting IVs, doing electrocardiograms. So you do a lot of the Scott work. And it is those Scott works that makes you a better physician and prepares you. And then also you're learning from the experience of the other physicians. This is not that I can study the textbook and become a physician myself.
Right.
But you're standing on the shoulders of giants. There are many people, there are hundreds of years of experience in medicine. So what I know today, it is accumulated knowledge over so many years. And what I can do today, I'm relying on that knowledge, taking the new information, combining it together, and being able to deliver it to my patients.
Right. Dr. Zhang, what about for you? You know, we talked about Dr. Ru's experience as a medical student. When you were first starting out, you wanted to be an architect. You decided to go down this track of becoming a doctor.
Just before I step my foot into the medical university, I'm not pretty much understand what a doctor should be. So I just start my study in the college for 3 years, only study in the library and facing the knowledge, but not the patient. I feel very down because I still love architect.
Right.
But after that, I just become, I don't know how to call that in English. It's just to face the patient. After 3 years study in the college, I have the chance to face the patient.
Right.
So until that time, I got my feeling, because I'm very good at that, to talk with the patient, to understand them, to explain in their way about their disease and what the treatment should be. So I got very positive feedback. So I got my feeling, I got my confidence. I think maybe I can be a good doctor. But just starting from then, there is to go. So, but I got my courage to continue, just drop off the dream to become an architect.
So it was really because of your love of that relationship, of helping people, of building that relationship with your patients that made you continue.
Yes, I think it's very important, especially in my career. I'm a cancer surgeon. So I think it's very important to communicate with your patient, to make them understand what is important thing to do.
Right.
What made you decide to become a cancer surgeon?
One of my classmates told me that to become a cancer doctor should be very good because you have endless paper to write, and the operation should be more complicated than general surgery. So it sounds promising.
So you chose the most
most
complicated, the most difficult one.
I choose the hard one.
Right. How about for you, Dr. Ru? Why did you choose, you're now the department head for family medicine. You've been in family medicine. Why family medicine?
Why family medicine? It's because I really get bored if I'm seeing the same thing over and over again. And family medicine has such a wide spectrum of patients you can see.
You're the gatekeeper, pretty much.
Practically a gatekeeper. You're seeing, you can deliver babies, you can take care of the neonates, infants, you take care of their vaccinations, their asthmas, their pneumonias. They become teenagers, you take care of the adolescents, they become adults. They get married, you deliver their babies again, they get old, you take care of the geriatrics. So there's a whole spectrum. And you get to know the whole family as one entity. And then you know about the genetics, you know about the things that are happening in the family. And then you can not only address the patient in one whole, but again, you're addressing the whole family. And then also my job is really to make sure that my colleague here is starving. So that my patient will not get to have cancers.
Right.
So if you're looking at a lot of it is about prevention.
Preventative medicine.
It's about good practice, about food, about exercise, about sleep, about attitude, and about the measures that we can do.
Right.
So we are in control until when things happen. But until that thing happens, still we have a lot of choices.
Right. Deciding upon your specialty is something that actually happens quite early in your career. I mean, when you, after been practicing for many decades, it's that choice has to happen very early on. Let's go back to our students who are in the local Beijing hospital and hear what they had to say about starting off in their medical careers.
Being a doctor is very different from being a medical student. A doctor must make his diagnosis independently. The decisions you make means life and death for patients.
The most attractive part of being a physician is that you play such an important role in somebody's life. You meet all kinds of people, you don't know them at first, but you go into their life, support them, ease their pain, or teach them how to face illness, and help them start a new life. This is fascinating to me.
This is my second year as a resident physician. I'm in ER, where I experienced a lot. The experiences teach me more about how to be a doctor. I will try to be a good doctor.
Patients I see in our hospital are nice. They trust us deeply. They put their lives in our hands. When they recover and go home comfortably, that encourages me.
A key point in the growth of medical students is graduation from the medical college. I think we are at the same level with other countries in terms of medical education before graduation, or even more advanced in some occasions. We need improvement in the after-graduation part, which we started a little later in China, but I think we are on the right track.
I don't think there's practicing in Beijing and other places, like in Taiwan. The most difficult part of being a doctor is always about how to get along with your patients. As long as you really care about them, they will trust and listen to your advice.
Obviously, things are different in China because there are just so many people coming from lower tier cities too. So you go in and the waiting room is full of people. You can't even see the doctors or the nurses, they're completely swamped. Whereas I guess in the West, because there's far less people, you maybe have more time to sit down and talk. Yes. Do you feel like now that you're department head, you have to make decisions for pretty much the entire hospital? Everyone who wants to come will want to come and see you because they want the best person to come and give them their decision.
Yes, I think we have so many chances to talk to the patients. For the outpatient clinic, I can tell the patient that you should do some examination. That's the first step. So after that, when we can do some basic diagnosis, we just tell the patient that maybe you got cancer, but we have different choices. But maybe some further examination should do because we need to find if there's other tumors like metastasis in your body. If it's not, maybe we can perform the operations. So after the patient get into the hospital, we can still have the chance to talk about our plan. So what will happen in the OR? So what final result should be. So when the patient always asks, how long should I live after the operation? I don't know. I just tell the patient that maybe after the final pathologic report that, I'll tell you more detail about that. But before that, we just underwent this. We talk about the safety and the necessity about this operation. After we perform the operation, we just wait for the report. Then we can answer your question. Should I get chemotherapy or radiation therapy or just the surgery? So there are a lot of chances to talk to the patient.
All right, when we come back, we're going to hear more about what it takes to be a doctor here in China. Please stay tuned.
The main differences between the Chinese style and the Western style of hospitals
is the luxury of time.
It's totally different in a public hospital.
It's a nightmare, especially an outpatient.
What is it about a public hospital that keeps you there?
Welcome back to Crossover. So with us today we have two very fantastic guests. Dr. Ru Tangizi, you've got a lot of experience working in foreign hospitals, and Dr. Zhang, obviously the vast majority of your experience has been here in Chinese hospitals. I want to know what the main difference is between the Chinese style and the Western style of hospitals. Is there a difference in structure or the way you see things?
For myself, I would say that I'm really fortunate to be able to work in an establishment that has allowed me to practice medicine without really thinking about the finances, without really thinking about the details of creating a hospital. The other thing that I have is the luxury of time. When patients are coming, I'm not rushed for time. It's not like 20 other patients that are waiting there. I can take my time. When I have patients, I've got 20 minutes, I have 30 minutes, and listening to their complaints, to the things that makes them uncomfortable, and you find 95% of the answers from the patients. And then you run tests and diagnostics in order to support your hypothesis. But almost every time, the answer is from the patients. And I have the highest respect for my colleagues who are working in the public hospital, because tremendous when they are pressed for time. There are hundreds of patients that they have to see. With every patient, they're probably spending only minutes, and they have to come up quickly with a diagnosis.
Right, because you work for a private hospital here in Beijing. It's totally different in a public hospital. What's the experience for a Chinese doctor in a public hospital, Dr. Zhang?
It's a nightmare, especially an outpatient. Like, I really have 30 to 40 patients half day.
A half day?
A half day.
Wow.
And I always do different things at the same time. And I still take the responsibility to keep order of other people. Some people just do not respect other people's privacy. They just open the door and said, maybe there's some problem. Should you check my examination report?
And you're talking to a different patient.
But I'm still talking to number one, number two, or even number 30 come here and said, should I? But you should have to be patient. You have to tell the patient what you should do, and especially concentrate on the person who's sitting in front of you, instead of talking to different people at the same time.
Well, there is a big difference in terms of what that patient is paying for that time that they have with the doctor. Of course, we know that the prices between a private hospital and a public hospital in China is very different. But Dr. Zhang, I have to ask you, if you're seeing such a huge caseload every single day and you're exhausted, I know a lot of Chinese doctors are moving to go to private hospitals because it's a slower pace.
Right.
What is it about a public hospital that keeps you there? And
I think the system is quite different. So because our hospital is based on the college, the Peking University. So we got our continuing education, we got our paper publication, and we got a professor, a title from the university. But if you work in the private hospital, you just become a doctor, a surgeon.
I guess some of the best examples on when you have a partnership between the private and public hospitals. Here we have a physician who has so much experience, but again is inundated with so many patients.
Right.
But again, in order to take a break, then he can come to a private hospital, do an afternoon there, see 5, 6 patients, and then work them up and go back and do his research. The drawback for the private hospital is that the doors, unfortunately, it is because of the finances. It is not everybody can afford to come and see us. But we do have a policy that anything that is limb-threatening or life-threatening, we cannot refuse it.
Well, we have a video clip of a day in the life of a physician. It's actually another surgeon here at a hospital in Beijing. Let's take a look.
It's Monday morning. At the Gastrointestinal Cancer Center, the day starts with a meeting to review the previous week's work. The resident doctors have always conducted business among themselves in English. For 27-year-old Zhang Yinan, a third-year resident surgeon, this is not a great challenge. He has been a doctor since 2011. He says he chose medicine as a career, having struggled with illness throughout his childhood. He'd been studying medicine for several years when he took the decision to specialize in cancer treatment.
After the observation and internship, I found my interest lay in the abdominal surgery. And choosing the major as oncology, I can focus on limited number of diseases such as gastric cancer and colon cancer. I can develop very professional at one disease. We cannot cure cancer nowadays. And after seeing my patient, their quality of life improved and their survival also improved, I feel great joy.
For a young doctor, doing the rounds of the wards can be an intimidating experience. You never know what the senior consultants will ask you. It may be unrelated to medicine, like today when the department director comments on the cleanliness of their coats. At 9 o'clock, a tide of work is unleashed. It's the time to consult, discuss, explain, and make notes, a process that's repeated time and time again. In Chinese hospitals, the decision maker is more likely to be the family members rather than the patient. With the decision made, the anxiety mounts. Walls like this separate the patient and the nervously waiting family members. This is a time when time is forgotten. Dr. Zhang still remembers his first surgery.
It is at one night and midnight, and a very old man developed hernia and need emergency surgery. I waited a long time to go to that surgery. On the table, I feel very nervous. Besides nervous, I feel excited and curious about this surgery.
After 4 hours, Dr. Zhang returns to the wards. In the meantime, he's been able to handle some work left over from the morning. Asked about his expectations for his career, the young doctor says it's hard to tell, as he's still at the starting point.
A doctor's career is like climbing a mountain. It's not a straight line. You climb up a little, and little by little you can climb up a mountain. Now it is still the start of my career. I still have a quite long way to go to reach the final goal.
But he does have two basic goals. They are to be a successful surgeon performing life-saving operations and to be a compassionate doctor offering comfort to his patients. He describes these goals as difficultly simple. We'd imagined a cancer doctor's work to be about dealing with life or death situations. Yes, they do save lives, but not in a dramatic way. It's more about routine and communication. That's the reality.
So it's a very busy day in a public hospital.
Yes.
Lots of patients that you're seeing. You have your surgeries. You're teaching at the same time. You know, you said before in the first segment that starting off in your medical career, it was that patient relationship.
Yes.
It was consulting them that really made you feel like, oh, I'm going to be a great doctor.
Yes.
Was there a patient, or can you tell us the story of a patient that you really have a great memory of, or, you know, had a great relationship with?
Yeah, it's a very sad story because the patient died. But the patient, I can never forget this patient, the only patient that impressed deep in my heart. Because it's about 2 years ago, this patient got very serious, a hilar cholangiocarcinoma. Actually, it's the liver cancer, but it's the bile duct deep into the liver. But this operation is very complicated, and the complications is rate is about 30 to 50%. Even in the United States.
30 to 50% failure rate.
Yeah,
or success
different
rate.
kind of complications. Altogether, it's about 40 to 50%. Even in the United States, some experienced surgeons still have to face these problems. These patients just face very serious complications like infections. So he and I fighting the infections for 5 months. But this particular patient, I just trust me so deeply. So every morning, as long as he can stand in front of the door, he's just waiting for me. So, but the disease is so serious. So sometimes it's just lying on bed and just waiting for Dr. Zhang to come to see me. And my decision making, never question the diagnosis. This trust make me. There's a bond between us, I think. I worry about him all the time. So even I was playing with my kids, I worry, should there be a serious fever tonight for him? And so I just go back to the hospital, even in the public holiday and the weekends. I just keep going and going. So that's why after his died, that's in the Chinese New Year, the second day. So I suddenly have nothing to do. I just stayed in my home. I don't know where I should go because basically I should go back to the hospital to see him, but he's gone. But I think the only reason to make me do that is because he trusts me so deeply, and it's just so touching. Wow. So I try my best, and I ask my friends who is working in other hospitals to provide their suggestions or their medications to this patient to save him. But the family members are so satisfied. They try to persuade me. Can you imagine that? It's just life goes on. This is the past. We should put our past behind us. So I just we became very good friends after his death. But I think that's the relationship between a surgeon and the patient should be. So that's encouraging.
So it was very difficult for you to get over his death.
Yes. For about 1-2 months.
I think that's so impressive because especially in public hospitals in China, when you have so many people coming to see you, it's so easy to just forget them and think of them as symptoms. But for you to build that kind of relationship, I think is really not necessarily one of a kind, but it's it's something that we should strive towards.
Yeah.
You see, that empathy is so important because when the chemotherapy surgery does a part of it, but a lot of it depends on the relations that you have with physician, the trust that you build there. And a big part of it is the healing that happens internally. I remember as the first-year resident in Canada, I had this cancer patient who was 50 years old. And then, so we went through the history, through everything, and she said she had the cancer for 10 years, breast cancer, and had metastasized to her bones. Then she said that, you know what, how I survived. I said, please do let me know because I'm so anxious to learn all of this. She said, I talked to my physician. I said, how much time do I have? And the physician said, how much time do you need? I said, I need 3 years because my daughter is graduating from high school. And then, so she graduated from high school. I survived. She got accepted into university. And then I went to the physician, as a doctor. I said, now how much time do I have? He said, how much time do you need? I said, I need another 5 years because she needs to finish her university. And she said, the surgeon said, yes, okay, we'll have another 5 years. So when I saw her, she was already 10 years in her course of cancer. She had rods in many places, but she was stable. She was able to walk. She was able to do everything. And then I said, so what is the next stage? He said, well, I have asked for another 3 years because my daughter is getting married. And then, so this is the hope that really takes the patients from day to day.
Right.
And it is the job of the physician not to break that hope. If there is any chances, if there is anything that needs to be shared with the patient so that you can bring that hope, I think it is much more effective than anything else that we can give.
Yes. Yes, just to bring hope to the patient is so important.
You know, Dr. Zhang, one thing that struck me about this patient that you just talked about was, you know, you talked about how he basically put his life in your hands.
Yes.
He had the ultimate trust in you. Are most patients like this, or do many second guess what you're telling them?
No, we cannot choose patient. We cannot choose the patient that the only patient that totally trusts you. This is your job. You are a surgeon or you are a doctor. You have to face every people, not the one kind. It's all kinds. Cancer is shocking. Every people think, oh, maybe I'm facing my end. So I should find a hospital, or maybe I should find a certain surgeon, a doctor to try to help me. So I need to trust him. But why should I show me your talent, your skill, experience? So that's a process. Just before that, we have time to set up this relationship. I think I have the confidence to do, even for some questionable patients.
I think I am partially guilty of that too, because when my aunt got cancer, basically everyone in our extended family was online. We were searching for her particular kind of cancer, all these different kind of remedies you could take, all these different kinds of surgeries you could take.
Nowadays,
and there are so many options
we're
out
all
there.
a doctor because of what's available on the internet,
and it's
right?
terrible. It's absolutely terrible, because then you lose that trust in your doctor. Then you think, oh, why did your doctor make this decision instead of the one that the internet recommended to me? And you start questioning your doctor, oh, why don't you do this, why don't you do that? But is there any way you can gain trust in the patient?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think because in a group of surgeons, we are so scared about one kind of patients. It's highly educated patient, especially.
It's you.
Especially medical practitioners. Just the patient is the doctor. He can just fight you about your decision. So why not another choice? Why should I take the chemo? Why should I go? Why shouldn't I go directly to the OR? So the NCCN guideline didn't say that. Doesn't say that. Why should you tell me this? So I think we still have our reason to confirm that the therapy and the decision is tailored. It's especially for just for these patients, not for everybody.
Right.
So when you're searching the internet, it's the general knowledge. It's not particularly designed for you. Yep. So you should understand that. Basically, it's good for you. But if this knowledge make you very anxious or maybe scared, you just stop searching that. It's not helpful. You should trust at least one doctor to help you. When you don't trust everybody, it's so terrible.
Dr. Ri, do you find that this is the same case, that some of your most difficult patients are actually physicians themselves?
Yeah, that's for sure. They say that the physicians are actually the worst patients. I'd like to go back to this trust that we're looking at with the patient. That many years ago, the physician was sitting behind this incredible big thick oak desk. Physician and patients were sitting in front, and the physician was the all-knowing, omnipotent person.
Sage.
Right. Sage, that's right, yeah. Or the God complex, they might say. And then he would dictate to the patient, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. When I started practicing, when I started my training, my desk was facing the wall, and the patient was sitting right beside me. And she had access to the same desk, and I had access to the same space. And this, you're creating, first of all, you're removing the barrier, and you're creating this partnership with the patient. And you're telling the patient, I don't know everything. Then let us look at it together. And I'm very happy that you have done this research. Yes, I do agree the internet and Googling or Binging things is not the most accurate things. But yes, you have a certain questions. And then there are reliable sources that we can look in together. And then in partnership, we can find the best treatment. 7
years ago, a few weeks after I had the birth of my son, I woke up in the middle of the night with this incredible pain in my abdomen. I couldn't, it felt like somebody was stabbing me in the back. I went to the emergency room, and I don't know why, but the ER doctor there, he just looked at me, and we had no idea what was happening with me at that time. It turned out that I was hemorrhaging internally. I ended up hemorrhaging about 2 liters of blood. But he just said, he looked at me and he said, don't worry, you're going to be okay. I thought I was dying, and I was. I could have. But he just said, don't worry, you're here in the hospital, you're safe, you're going to be okay. And for some reason, those words just completely made me feel very secure. You know, there's something about a doctor's presence that can make you, it's just very comforting.
Yeah.
Exactly. When we come back, we're going to hear more about being a doctor in China. Please stay with us.
If I pay a bit more money, maybe I'll have higher chances of success.
It's all potatoes.
Are we getting healthier? Are we getting unhealthier?
Say that you're becoming more health conscious.
We have more chance to live happier and healthier.
We need to live as an example to our patients.
Welcome back to Crossover. So, Dr. Zhang, I wanted to ask you a slightly, I guess, controversial question.
Okay.
I know in the past there have been circumstances where, because so many people seek doctors and they want successful surgeries, they want successful treatments, they had been known to offer bribes, thinking that, you know, if I pay a bit more money, maybe I'll have higher chances of success. Why did that used to happen?
I think it's complicated because I think the baseline is the medical resources is so limited. So everybody, you know, have to wait in line, waiting for a bed in the ward, waiting for the good doctors to perform the operation for the patient. And there's a lot of things they should worry about that. So maybe to pay some money to make the family member more, you know, secured, or maybe think the doctor already took our money, so may pay more attention to our patients. So I think even after, just before the patient get out of the hospital, the operation is very successful. The family members still insist that we pay that money. We want to pay that money because we want to be have the feeling of secured. That's important because we are so scared. So I think this is one of the reasons. Another reason is some of the, I have to admit it that some of the surgeons took that.
Take the money.
Take the money. Take that because they think, you know, it's just not balanced because their salary is not, you know, just it's not balanced. Because some of because they work hard, they just continue educated.
Right.
They have to still do a lot of things, and they're so tired. But the salary is not so decent.
How much does a typical surgeon, Chinese surgeon, make?
For me, I've been working in my hospital for 20 years, so the salary altogether is about 20,000.
20,000 a month.
A month.
A month.
A month, which is about $3,500 US.
Yes.
Right. How much does a typical surgeon in the US make? Do you know those?
Yeah, probably about $300,000 to $400,000.
$300,000 to $400,000 a year.
Yeah.
Right. There's such a huge
it's about
gap.
10x, 10 times.
Yes.
Right.
But again, you got to look at the cost of living. I look at the environment that you're living in, the housing and everything else. But I just want to come back to the issue of bribery and other things. This is, I'm glad that when this thing was in the past in China, and it might happen in odd occasions, but this is not a practice that is beneficial to the patient. This type of practice has happened in the West as well, but there is this licensed body that governs these, and anybody who has taken any sort of under the table, over the table, any sort of gifts, automatically they are given a warning, and if this thing is continued, then they will revoke their license.
And you're right, I mean, Dr. Zhang, I think you're right too. I think a lot of maybe patients are giving the hongbao. I mean, one, to gain more favored status or attention, but some may just want to thank the surgeon, you know, oh, this is how I'm going to thank you for doing a good job. I'm very grateful. Because doctors in China, I mean, they're sometimes revered almost like gods.
Sure.
I have a very interesting experiences. One of our patient, he's a farmer, he's just planting potatoes. So one day he just came to my outpatient clinic and bring a very big bag. It's all potatoes. He just said, it's very touching. He said, that's the only thing I can provide. It's the gift because I thank you so much to save my life. I thank him anyway, but I accept that. I think because he's real. His heart is real. I should accept that. It's just like a box of chocolate, actually. Exactly. It's the same thing. But it's very honest.
And it feeds more people, too.
You know, when it comes to Chinese doctors, what's really surprised me too is the skill, the technical skill amongst the surgical staff, in terms of because of the training and because of the volumes that you have access to.
Yeah. Doctor, I wanted to ask you actually, because you've obviously spent a lot of time in hospitals abroad. Is this something that you also see there, that people from smaller cities will want to go to the capital city to get treatment, or are they kind of okay with their local doctor, their local GP?
Certainly, I would say that when the level of complexity of a case, of course, in a tertiary city, bigger city, they have more experience, they have more equipment, they have more high-tech stuff.
Right.
Certainly, it makes sense to go there. But for common things like appendix, gallbladder, C-sections, abdominal surgeries, yes, when there are the secondary cities in North America very much capable of handling it.
Right. I mean, in the U.S., it's the same thing. You know, we have centers of excellence for certain types of diseases, or like there's the heart hospitals, or there's the cancer hospitals. Just similarly to Beijing, we might go, if we have cancer, to Mayo Clinic or Sloan Kettering. We'll go to the biggest cities to look for the doctors with the most experience and the most advanced research.
So it is something that happens worldwide. It's just that in China it's on a bigger scale because there are so many people.
Exactly. There are so many people here.
Exactly. Everything is at a bigger scale here in China. So, both of you have practiced medicine for decades.
That makes me really feel old.
Can you just comment on, the whole, I guess, the idea of, you've been seeing patients for so long, what do you think in terms of our overall health as people, as humanity? Are we getting more paranoid about our health? Are we getting healthier? Are we getting unhealthier?
Well, I would say that we are becoming more health conscious. That we are becoming, we're taking the driver's seat, and we want to be able to dictate the terms, be educated, we want to read on it, and if there is any sort of prevention that needs to be done, we want to do it early.
Dr. Zhang, what do you think?
I think we are getting more and more healthier because we live longer, but we're facing more complicated stuff, like cancer. Cancer is for senior people, basically. And even though there are some younger patients, but we still got a chance to get cancer when we got older. About 60 years ago, in Beijing, the population-based study showed that average age is about 50 years. But now it's about almost 80 years.
Wow.
So at that time, even TB, tuberculosis, could kill a lot of people.
Those infectious diseases. Right?
But now this is not a problem anymore. But we're facing more serious problems. I think that's as a group of living creatures, we just have to face the same things. But we have more chance to live happier and healthier. I think for a doctor, medical practitioner, we have the responsibility to make the people live healthier, not physically, but also mentally. I think that's important.
In fact, this is a really good point that not only we need to help them out, but we need to live as an example to our patients. That if a physician is coming and smoking and drinking or is obese, overly obese, then this is not setting a good example to the patient. So you exercise and you teach through your example that what are the right steps, what are the right things to do. And they will emulate you, they will look at you, and they will follow your advice.
I remember 20 years ago when I was in healthcare consulting and working in hospitals, I used to see all the doctors with a big can of, a 32 ounce of Coke or something, drinking, just caffeinate themselves throughout the day. I don't think you see as much of that anymore.
I don't think so.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to thank you two doctors today for being with us. It's really been a treat. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you to our viewers at home for tuning in. We'll see you next weekend on Crossover. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.